Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is today. And we are waiting for these tubes to warm themselves up all across the fruited plain of the interwebs before we get into the business on the day. And boy, do we have some good business to attend to. Soon as they connect, looks like they have connected. Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. We got a great stream planned ahead, bunch of legal updates from the corrupt DC judges that we'll go through today. We're going to start off by unpacking what's happening in this new American Oversight case, right? This is an organization that created a little name so that they look like they're doing legitimate things. All we're going to discover today is that it really is a Democrat operation that is behind the lawsuit that is now being brought against Hegseth and the Trump administration over the Signal Group, SignalGate fake scandal that the Democrats are hyperventilating about. But this begs the question, right? We've got questions about Wong, who may or may not have released or rather invited Goldberg into the chat. And then this lawsuit just came poof right out of nowhere. And the people behind American Oversight are none other than Democrat operatives, a big one. One of them is called Melanie Sloan, as you'll see here. Melanie Sloan, we're going to talk about. And then, of course, Norm Eisen. And I do believe I've got him queued up right there. So Norm Eisen is the one behind it as well. And we're going to follow the bouncing ball on this and show exactly how Norm is connected to this new lawsuit and this new Democrat operation called SignalGate. So all that is coming up. Then we're going to turn our attention to Judge Beryl Howell. You remember her. Judge Beryl Howell is a very anti-Trump judge who was appointed by Barack Obama, now presides over, or is a senior judge over at the United States District Court for the District of DC, the DC courts. And she got a request from the Trump DOJ to recuse herself because of her prior hackery. And she came out today and said, I'm not going anywhere. So Judge Beryl Howell is refusing to recuse herself. We'll talk about that coming up. And then we got to talk about this appeal that just came down in the Boasberg case. We're learning a lot more about this judge, including the fact, two great stories over from Just the News, that the judge was going to anti-Trump junkets, and the judge was playing a key role in the FISA saga, which we already knew. But we had those two updates, and then the court came out, the Court of Appeals, and denied Trump's request for a stay of the deportation order. And so what we'll go through today, there was a big opinion that came out, 93-pager. We're going to skip the garbage opinions, and we'll go right to the dissent from Judge Walker. Judge Walker says, we don't have jurisdiction in Washington, D.C. to hear this case about people who are detained in Texas. There is no jurisdiction here. And so take your case and get out. So we'll see what Judge Walker had to say about that, of course, in the Court of Appeals. Trump, no doubt, will appeal this. And you know what that means. Supreme Court's coming next. We're looking forward to that. So we got three good updates today. We're talking Howell. We're talking SignalGate. We're talking Boasberg and more. And Boasberg actually got the SignalGate case, if you can believe that nice little coincidence. And I'm sure you can't. So, my friends, we got a great stream planned ahead. Before we get into it, you know what we got to talk about? Protecting your home. Because did you know scammers can literally steal your home right from under you? The FBI calls it house stealing, and it's a growing real estate scam that targets American homeowners. And here's how it works. Pretty simple. Criminals forge your signature on one document. They use a fake notary stamp. They pay a small fee. They file it with your local recorder's office. And just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. What the? Then they can take out loans using your equity as collateral or even sell the property behind your back. And you won't even know it's happening until you start getting collection notices or foreclosure notices in the mail. And so let me ask you, when was the last time you checked your home title? If you're like me, the answer is never. And that's exactly what scammers are counting on. But that's why I trust Home Title Lock. Now, their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. And here's what you get. Immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property. Urgent alerts if there are any changes. And if fraud should happen, their US-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title at no additional cost. And here's the best part. I've teamed up with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report so you can find out if you're already a victim and access your personal title expert, a $250 value just for signing up. And so go to HomeTitleLock.com, use my promo code. It's called Robert250, Robert250 for the value, or just click on the link in the description below. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Robert250. Get the protection and the peace of mind you deserve with our friends at Home Title Lock. And so thanks for supporting sponsors of today's show. Now, we got business to attend to, and we're going to this case involving American so-called oversight and the SignalGate saga. A Democrat operation underway, and they're hiding under this little neat name called American Oversight. They say, we're just a nonprofit organization who just wants to oversee America to make sure that there's no problems going on. Well, when we dive into it, as we will, we're going to see who is really behind this. The two founders who created this are anti-Trump nut jobs, and then they passed it off to other anti-Trump nut jobs, and they just sprung out of nowhere to file a lawsuit based on this SignalGate situation, which many people are now having questions about, asking about Wong and how Goldberg got added to this Signal group and how this lawsuit was created overnight and filed immediately. Well, we're going to go through what this lawsuit is about very briefly because it's pathetic like most of them. But what's most important today is who is behind this lawsuit and what's really happening here, because it does feel like there is an operation underway. And so when we scroll down to the bottom of this lawsuit, you're going to see it was filed by Benjamin Sparks over at American Oversight. We've had a litany of these dumb names here on this channel, like the AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition. What do they advocate for? AIDS. No. Vaccines for AIDS. Okay. And so on and so forth, like the Global Health Council and the Institute of Democracy and the Endowment of the Arts, all garbage, right? But what is so interesting about American Oversight is they're even more cowardly than the rest of them, is they hide behind the dark of night. And if you go to their website, as I have, you can pull it up and you can see, well, let's just learn about them. I'm sure they're doing amazing work, right? We do amazing work here, so we stand behind our name. My name is Robert Govea, okay? The name of the show is called Watching the Watchers Live. Nice to meet you. But if you go over here to their website, American Oversight, you try to figure out the hell they do. All they say is that we're joining the fight for democracy, right? Again, they got a lot of stuff going on. They got newsletter updates and more. But if you click this little button and you say, you know, I want to learn about them, so I say, oh, click the About Us page so I can learn who's on the board, who's making this work, who's getting the money donated to them, and more. Nothing about us, our priorities, who we are. Oh, we got a team of 30 lawyers. Why don't you put your names out there, you cowards, and researchers and communicators who are hiding like little weenie babies in the gutters, uncovering the paper trail. They got partners and our partner collaborations. Maybe we can, I haven't clicked this one. Let me see. Are there any names in here? No, of course not. They don't want you to know who they are, right? Obviously. So when you follow this around, you ask yourself, okay, well, who is American Oversight then, right? We got to figure out who they are. You can't figure out, they don't even tell you because they're so pathetic. Well, you can go over to projects over here at ProPublica, which will allow us to get into their financial disclosure since they're in a 501c3. And they're a big organization, baby. They got in 2023, almost 6.5 million bucks coming in as revenue. And they're dropping another 5.87 million, right? So when you're filing lawsuits, that's a lot of money. You can file a lot of lawsuits for almost 6 million bucks. So assets and liabilities and more. Now we ask ourselves, who are these people? Okay, because these people have basically hidden themselves. Their board of directors, their board president, their treasurer, their member, and their other people on the board, they take no salary, but they do have some directors who do get salaried up. So Heather Sawyer, Dan Schwager, Catherine Anthony, Amanda Toucher, Chuku Chioma, getting paid 6 figures, all of them, all 5 of them. And the big one is Heather Sawyer. She's the executive director, right? So she's getting paid almost 300 grand, 299 and change. Nice gig if you can get it. So in 2023, you can see a lot of money came in, a lot of money went out. In 2022, They had a bunch of expenses, not a bunch of income, but a bunch of net assets there as well. Now, most of their money is coming from contributions. Okay, 98% coming in. They're a nonprofit. So you say, well, what are they serving? Well, American Oversight. No, they're serving Democrat operations. And let me show you why. So first of all, this person here, her name is Heather Sawyer. And if you look her up, she is this person. She's the special counsel. So she's also a lawyer over for Cooley, right? Which is a big law firm. And what she does, she's special counsel to their investigations practice. So she's getting this lady's just getting loaded with cash, okay? Because she's getting big bucks over from this firm. And she's getting 300 G's from American Oversight. So she works for a big law firm, and she works for Oversight. And she works with Congressional Investigations Practice, more than a decade of service. She leverages an insider's understanding. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, 300 G's a year of insiders. For 13 years, she served as a trusted advisor for members of Congress, was on the Committee on Benghazi and other things. And she worked, right, with Democrats. She was working with Dianne Feinstein, who was basically brain dead for the last little bit. Also worked with others, John Conyers, Jerry Nadler. Oh, the Waddler. And she's worked with the AIDS, bunch of AIDS stuff, and ACLU, incredible. And she got inducted to the LGBT Hall of Fame. And you know what's happening here? They're missing all these different letters. This is very offensive and non-inclusive. Where'd all the other letters go? IAX, Bialodocious, plus, and so on. Where did they all go? Don't know. But then her education, she went to University of Chicago, Georgetown, and all the things. Okay, so she's in charge of the operation right now. Doesn't want to put her name out there on the website. None of them do, because they're pathetic, in my opinion. They should just put their names up there if they're doing amazing oversight work, but they don't want to, okay? So she's a Democrat operative, but you might say, well, so what? Okay, you know, she might have political opinions, have multiple jobs, whatever. Well, what's so interesting about this oversight organization is this oversight organization was actually founded back during Trump's first term. Here's an article back from Politico. Liberals cribbing from conservatives' playbook to attack Trump. The post-election scramble to build a liberal version of Judicial Watch is underway. This is first term. Judicial Watch has a big budget, $30 million, which is wild. Shout out to them. That was, back in 2016. Some liberals with the task are trying to figure out what to do. Now, Brock has made clear, right? David Brock and others, Ryan Shapiro and others, in a series of meetings since Trump's win, a group of activists came together, and here it comes. They came out from the ACLU, Public Citizens and More, and the Bauman Foundation. But from now, here we go, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. That's the Crew Foundation, C-R-E-W, Crew. We know where that came from. But in recent years, Crew faced increased questions about its credibility. Said, I wouldn't call it, liberal or anything, but of course it is. Crew filed a FOIA request and more. And David Brock was involved in a lot of this, but others have questions about this, whether that Crew can develop into something. And here his name is. It's Norm Eisen and Richard Painter who were responsible for Crew. So then Crew filed a bunch of lawsuits during the Bush years and with the FEC and working with Mark Zaid, right? Mark Zaid is from the first operation, right? From the first round of this. John Podesta was involved in this. And you can see they created this a long time ago. Now, the article is massive, and I want to show you now where this ultimately came from. So, Crew, right? Crew and Melanie Sloan. So, where does this come from? Melanie Sloan. Now, if you backtrace from Crew and Melanie Sloan, she's an American attorney, former counsel for House Judiciary Committee as well, with the other woman we just saw from the law firm. Former executive director for Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, the Crew organization that Norm Eisen is a part of, and a nonprofit organization. And then in March 2017, Sloan joined a new government watchdog group called American Oversight, right? So Sloan helped to co-found Crew and is working with, or helped to found American Oversight as well. Now, Crew was founded in 2003 by former federal prosecutor Melanie Sloan and white-collar lawyer called Norm Eisen. So Melanie and Norm form Crew. Then Melanie leaves Crew after Trump wins in 16, goes and forms American Oversight. Then she leaves American Oversight and passes the whole thing off to this woman who is called Heather Sawyer. Okay, so American Oversight was ultimately influenced by Norm Eisen through Melanie Sloan. They work together, and the whole thing's a Democrat operation, right? And then they'll lie to us and say, well, no, we're only here as a nonpartisan entity. And then they create these fake websites saying that our work supports progressive advocacy organizations. They won't even put their name on here because they're so cowardly and pathetic. But then when this lawsuit gets filed, right? So this lawsuit has now been filed, and the lawsuit is about what you'd expect from them. They come out and they say, well, here's the following. They say, all right, this action arises from Hegseth and Tulsi and John Ratcliffe and Scott Bessent and Rubio and all of them. Okay, this is a liberal organization. Obviously, we just showed you the heritage of where they came from. And they're suing. And they're going to say that they've got some legitimate claim. Obviously, they're just hacks. But Plaintiff Oversight brings this, American Oversight, so Norm Eisen's love child, brings this action under the Federal Records Act and the APA, saying don't destroy their records and preserve everything in the chat. Says the plaintiffs, Melanie and Norm, BFF besties, they are nonpartisan, right? No, nonsense. That's not true at all. Nonprofit corporation. They're getting millions of dollars to funnel back into these claims. Organized, and we can't see where that money is coming from, by the way. So you can see all these donations, contributions, as far as I can tell from this website. Can't see explicitly who's giving those because it's a 501 C3, right? If it's a C4, I think we can see who is getting the money. Since it's a C3, I think we can't see it. So it's not legitimate, right? It's partisan. They exist to prosecute Republicans. So their status should be revoked or there should be repercussions for it. But what's happened here is they're filing this lawsuit. You can see they say it is committed to promoting transparency in government, educating the public about government activities, ensuring accountability through FOIA and more. And so in the regular course of its work, we further our core mission, and they got away with this for a long time, right? This was all the USAID crap. We only care about the public good. Well, the public good seemingly is only good for Democrats, and they just exist to prosecute Republicans. So that's not really for the public good. So they're naming everybody here, right? Pretty simple. Rubio, Ratcliffe, and everybody, saying the Federal Records Act covers all federal records. And so you shall preserve your records. We talk about this a lot with government filings, like the January 6th case and stuff like that. Why are they just destroying records? So you got to make notice when you're destroying things. They didn't provide proper notice. They say from March 11th through the 15th, senior Trump administration officials were using Signal to talk about military strikes. Now it's open source. It's encrypted. It includes a function that allows users to set time limits, and then those messages just delete. Reporter Jeffrey Goldberg, hacked from The Atlantic, was inadvertently included. Yeah, how did that happen? According to Goldberg, the Signal chat was highly sensitive. And there's a bunch of people in there, like the VP and others, all those people listed. According to the article, at least one participant said that messages would disappear. And you can't have messages disappear. We think that messages will disappear. And so you must order them to preserve their records in case somebody wants to file a FOIA request. We've regularly done this before. We've sent many FOIA requests to the DOD, and we want this stuff to be retrieved. In fact, in February, we also submitted FOIA requests, and they're just bombarding the government with FOIA requests, and we're not getting information back. And they acknowledge receipt of this, and so all of these requests are currently pending. And so we think that they're going to delete these records. They can't destroy a document after these have already been requested. We've requested this stuff, and they're going to destroy it. So American Oversight, Norm and Melanie's love child, says that messages in the Signal chat, like all other recorded information made or received by the federal agency, must be preserved and safeguarded, right? Make sure that they don't delete any of these things. Defendants have failed and continue to fail to prevent the automatic deletion. And so just preserve it. Each defendant is on notice. They can't do any of this stuff. And so they say, we want you, court, to declare that the communications are business and agency records to preserve them. If they're deleted, it's going to be an unlawful deletion, and issue an emergency injunction to make them comply with the law and not delete the records. Signed by Benjamin Sparks, who is counsel for American Oversight, the, in my opinion, fake and corrupt organization that tries to play off as a nonpartisan organization that's just an oversight. It's a Democrat operation. We just showed you the lineage of where it came from. Now, in addition to that, we've got more and reaction from our friend, the researcher, some commentary from Norm Eisen. Norm likes to go on the media and go on the podcast like those Midas Touch dorks over there and talk about their lawfare openly, almost like he's had too much to drink at a late night dinner with Melanie. But what happened is they then admitted that he put together a whole team of people. Shout out to the researcher for clipping this for us. Listen_to learn. Reposted at the top of our timeline if you want to grab it. But it's Norm saying, we have the best team out there in the whole world. I mean, we've got prosecutors and lawyers and judges, and lawyers and not judges. Here's Norm.
We have a strong team, judge, prosecution team, very good defense team if Trump lets them do their job.
I thought today's proceedings, with the note coming out from the jury, and then while we were getting ready to answer the first note, we got a second jury request to have the legal instructions read back to them by the judge, which was an 80-minute adventure.
Yeah, so that's Norm. Just loves the judge. And one more time.
We have a strong team, judge, prosecution team, very good defense team if Trump lets them.
Yeah, look right there. Busted. You know what you just said. Yeah, Judge Mercan. You guys texting each other? What are you doing with Judge Mercan, huh? Very interesting. So, yeah, they had a great team put together, including the judge. Now, the truth is, Hegseth has responded to all of this nonsense and this Democrat onslaught and hystericism. Says, all right, look, so let me get this straight, okay? The Atlantic released the so-called war plans, and those plans include no names, no targets, no locations, no units, no routes, no sources, no methods, and no classified information. Those are some really crappy war plans. This only proves one thing, okay? Jeff Goldberg has never seen a war plan or an attack plan, as he now calls it, not even close. He's never even seen a war plan. Oh, what a loser. How old is he? And how long has he been in the government? Man, somebody should just show him something. That's kind of sad, you know? Like, just take him to a party or something. Just show him a war plan. He's never even seen it. Pathetic. As I type this, my team and I are traveling to Indo-PACOM region, meeting with commanders, the guys who make real war plans, and talking to troops. We will continue to do our job while the media does what it does best, peddle hoaxes as they do. So, yeah, Goldberg was like an 87-year-old, no war plan virgin. Pathetic. So he's been journalizing for a long time. Can't even recognize war plans. What has he really been doing with his life? Nothing. Pathetic. So Pete Hegseth is right. He really nailed Goldberg on that one. Now, Johnson also came back out and said, the message is that the Atlantic released only prove that America is strong again. All right. President Trump's national security leaders are patriots who collaborate and then act decisively to take out the terrorists. A welcome, needed change after 4 years of weakness from President Biden. We also had this happen today in the House. Tulsi Gabbard was brought into the House session and asked about intelligence. Here's how she responded.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Gabbard, were there any sources described in the Signal chat?
No, Congressman.
Were there any methods described in the Signal chat?
No.
Were there any locations?
No.
Therefore, due to the fact that there were no sources, no methods, nor locations described in the Signal chat, it does not make the discussion classified. Is that correct?
That is up to the Secretary of Defense determination.
The Democrats are obviously making the assertions that what was in the Signal chat was classified and claiming that Secretary Hegseth put this war plan out to the world, which he clearly did not. Were there any names in the Signal chat?
No.
Any targets?
No.
Any locations?
No.
Was there a unit name or location of that unit?
There was not.
Were there any routes described in the signal chat?
No.
Wouldn't an operational plan contain that type of information?
Every operational plan I've ever seen has contained that information.
Thank you. Shifting to the real threats to America, the southern border. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Tulsi has seen a war plan. Goldberg hasn't. So maybe those people at the Atlantic should get their facts straight. Jim Jordan came out supporting the cause, saying President Trump ordered a strike to kill terrorists threatening American interests. The strike was successful. Americans are safer. That's all from Jim. Thank you, Jim. We also had this from Lindsey Graham. He posted a little bit more. He said, I continue to support all members of Trump's national security team, saying this was very successful and whatever Graham says. He's on board. Great. So we also saw John Ratcliffe was here today and responding to this, saying, why don't you ask us some real questions? Stop calling this the biggest military catastrophe in your whole life, you pathetic people who've not even seen a war plan, can't even recognize what it is if it smacked you in the face. Where were you when Biden killed 13 Americans or was responsible for the deaths of 13 Americans?
For the last 2 days, members of the intelligence community have been asking questions about a signal messaging group and not asking questions from Democrats either in the Senate or the House on China, Russia, Iran, and the real threats that are going on to the United States. And you can say that you care about the good work that agencies are doing like the CIA and that you care about 140 stars on the wall. But no one's asked me about my second day on the job here, where I lit the fuse that led to a foreign government participating with us to capture one of the senior planners of the Abbey bombing that killed 13 Americans. And in the process, we worked with a government that previously hadn't, so that hadn't cooperated with us on counterterrorism matters. Or the fact no one has focused on that within an hour of that taking place, I was on the phone with Director Patel, and a few hours later with Attorney General Bondi, working together, the IC and the FBI working together to bring this person home in less than a week. Unprecedented success for the intelligence community and the law enforcement community. Exactly representative of the kind of work that we should be doing and the kind of work that an oversight committee should be asking about.
Yeah.
But instead, we're getting questions about whether or not someone has drinking habits. And, you know, I just wish in an annual threats hearing where the American people want to hear about threats, that's what we would be talking about. Thanks for the opportunity to clarify.
Yeah, that would be nice if the Democratic oppositional anti-American party cared about those things, like bringing justice to the families who lost loved ones after Joe Biden botched that Afghanistan withdrawal. But they don't want to talk about that because that is egg on their face. They'd rather talk about this, which is a little chat leak with nothing in there, with no consequences, with no information that was relevant at all. That's all they got. They're making themselves look ridiculous. So for all the hyperventilation, it's, I don't think, going to serve them well in the long run. But what else do they have? They've got nothing else to cry about. So this will be it for the foreseeable future. It's the only thing they've got. So Karoline Leavitt was out today. Here's what she said during the press briefing about all of this and Goldberg and his wife.
Here are the facts. The National Security Advisor has taken responsibility for this matter. And the National Security Council immediately said, alongside the White House counsel's office, that they are looking into how a reporter's number was inadvertently added to this messaging thread. We have said all along that no classified material was sent on this messaging thread. There were no locations, no sources or methods revealed, and there were certainly no war plans discussed. The Atlantic has even admitted this themselves. Their release of these internal messages validates the truth, which we have been saying all along. If this story proves anything, it proves that Democrats and their propagandists in the mainstream media know how to fabricate, orchestrate, and disseminate a misinformation campaign quite well. And there's arguably no one in the media who loves manufacturing and pushing hoaxes more than Jeffrey Goldberg. Goldberg is an anti-Trump hater. He is a registered Democrat. Goldberg's wife is also a registered Democrat and a big Democrat donor who used to work under who? Hillary Clinton. This is the same Jeffrey Goldberg who infamously lied about weapons of mass destruction to get us into the Iraq War, which cost trillions of dollars and thousands of American soldiers. And how else has Goldberg discredited himself? By absurdly claiming that President Trump was Vladimir Putin during the 2016 campaign. By peddling the Russia hoax that tried to hijack President Trump's first term. By inventing the suckers and losers hoax to help Joe Biden in the 2020 election. By peddling a hoax about President Trump involving Gold Star families to help Kamala Harris in the 2024 election, which our campaign at the time vigorously denied. Jeffrey Goldberg didn't care. There's more, but we don't have all day, and we can now add the Signal hoax to this very long list.
Beautifully done. And even if there was access to a list or something, right, they are also blowing it out of proportion. So you might say, well, let's just be reasonable on this. Like, it's not ideal that a journalist got added. If you want to just say that the mistake narrative is the legitimate narrative, you say, okay, we're going to say it was a mistake and he got added inadvertently. It's not good. It's not like nothing happened at all, and so just whatever. But I don't think that's been Trump's response. But it's also definitely not what and some people I think have been saying, don't even talk about it, whatever, right? It's not exactly that. Like, it's not ideal. You don't want journalists being popped into threads, however it happened. But it's also not World War III, which is how the Democrats are interpreting it, especially not with their history on military security, whether you want to go to Benghazi or the Afghanistan withdrawal, or any other servers that Hillary had in her basement, or at Joe Biden's garage boxes, or whatever. There's many other examples here for them to be screeching like the sky is falling is hysterical. So Karoline, I think, gave us good context on that. And Hegseth was also out today, and here's what Hegseth said.
Effective. Now, as I said to this group a couple of times on this trip now, as we move to the Indo-Pacific to do our job, which is what we're here to do, nobody's texting war plans. Well, I noticed this morning, out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans, because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. You know who sees war plans? I see them every single day. I looked at them this morning. I looked at attack plans this morning. You know who does attack plans and war plans? Men like that admiral right there, Paparo, for the Indo-Pacific, or Eric Kurilla, our general in CENTCOM. They do attack plans and war plans, and thank God we have those leaders who do it and do it well, and our enemies know it. My job, as it said atop of that, everybody's seen it now, team update is to provide updates in real time, general updates in real time, keep everybody informed. That's what I did. That's my job. The war fighters will take the fight to the enemy, and I love what they do. And with President Trump's leadership, our enemies are on notice. We will have peace through strength, and we'll keep putting our troops first. Thank you very much.
Looking right into the camera as he said it. And Pete Hegseth looks at war plans every single day. Jeffrey Goldberg doesn't. That's why he doesn't even know what they look like. And his party can't even tell the difference between a man and a woman. So how are they going to have any insight onto very complicated issues like war plans? Obviously, they won't. So we'll keep our eye on this ridiculous case brought by Norm, Eisen, and Melanie, Sloan's love child called American Oversight. And we'll see what the judge does on it. But regardless of the merits of the complaint, this is happening in D.C., and the case got assigned to none other than Judge Boasberg. Judge Boasberg, one of the more corrupt judges out of Washington, D.C., in our opinion, and we'll go through what happens with it, but this might be payback, an opportunity for him to deliver payback. Trump invoked state secrets on a companion case in the deportation case, and now Judge Boasberg is getting another state secrets case, which is about essentially secrets leaking out of a signal group. So we're just waiting for him to be even more irritating than before. Thanks for subscribing and joining as the coverage continues. Now, we're not done yet. We got to turn our attention over, well, let's just go over to Judge Boasberg, shall we? Since we're talking about Judge Boasberg. And here's this case. So we'll talk about the Court of Appeals case, and let's get this queued up again wherever it's supposed to be. Yes, right here. Okay, so let me show you this, and then we'll come back. So let's go to page 1. All right, so here we are. This is the other case that we're talking about. A Trump appeal rejected. This is the case involving Judge Boasberg, one of the more corrupt judges out of Washington, D.C., who has traveled around to anti-Trump junkets and been a thorn in the administration's side as it relates to the deportation of Tren de Aragua terrorists. So Trump appealed his order. Remember, his order was you can't deport people unless you give them an individualized judicial hearing. Trump appealed it and asked for a stay. We listened to some of the oral arguments earlier this week when one of the judges came out and was screaming that even the Nazis got treated better than the Tren de Aragua people, courtesy of Trump. And now the order came down. Trump is losing this one, which means the next stop is going to be at the Supreme Court. Now, there were 3 different components to this opinion. We had Judge Henderson, Judge Millett, who agreed. One gave an opinion, one gave a concurring opinion, but the dissenting opinion, Judge Walker, is the one I want to spend the most time on, because the dissenting opinion is the right opinion, saying you don't even have jurisdiction to hear this case. These are people being deported who are presumably illegal, who are not supposed to be here, don't have a lawful reason to be here. They should file a habeas petition in Texas if they want to stay. But they didn't do that. They forum shopped, because that's what they do. They went to D.C., lower level court, Judge Boasberg, and this is the Court of Appeals, and here is what they said. So the first judge, Karen LaCraft Henderson, wrote a concurring statement. Now, this is a per curiam decision, so it's kind of the opinion of the court. Judge Walker dissents from the denial of the emergency motions for stay. So Henderson gave us a big, long opinion. The Alien Enemies Act involves this and all of the other things. Learning of Trump's proclamation, they sued so that they couldn't be deported. So then they go through, right, she says, in the ordinary course of litigation, we talk about jurisdiction, our legal tradition, and more. So the government, she finds that they have jurisdiction. She finds that the government is going to lose, that the plaintiffs are going to win, and they refuse to grant a stay, right? So we've already seen this before many times. It's not that interesting. So we actually want to go to the dissenting opinion from Judge Walker. So 2 judges say that it can stay in place. In other words, the Boasberg order stopping Trump can stay. Trump's request to pause it loses. But this is the dissenting opinion, which will now go up to appeal, and we'll see if this is influential on the Supreme Court judges. Here's what Judge Walker wrote. And Judge Walker, I do believe, was even appointed by Trump. Says, all right, listen. Tren de Aragua is a violent criminal organization linked to Venezuela. The president invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to remove its members from our country. Venezuelan nationals alleged to be members of this group were swiftly sent to a detention center in Texas for summary removal. Now, 5 individuals confined at that Texas facility quickly sued the president here in Washington, D.C., says this Court of Appeals judge. They say that the president exceeded his authority under the act. They also say that they're not even members of Tren de Aragua. Now, the 2 sides of this case agree on very little, writes the dissent. But what is at this point uncontested is that the individuals identified as alien enemies, everyone agrees they may challenge that status in a habeas petition, right? It's a different proceeding. You don't get to sue to stop the administration from doing something nationwide, like passing a law that stops the president from doing something. If you're an individual plaintiff who's been caught up in this and you're being deported, I'm not a Tren de Aragua person. You go file a claim. You don't get to get certified as a class action for gangbangers and then have the judge limit the entire country. That's ridiculous, this judge says. Now, in other words, according to the government, the door to the federal courthouse in Brownsville, Texas, guess what? It's open. And the government is not represented that it will affirmatively prevent a detainee from seeking emergency habeas relief in the district of his confinement if they try to do so. So if these gangbangers have a problem with it, go file in Texas. But they know that this is about stopping Trump's deportation nationally. And they know that they're going to lose in Texas because I have a real judge there. In fact, despite the government's haste and notwithstanding the gangbang ACLU lawyers of underhanded conduct, deportees have managed to file petitions for habeas both here and in Texas, okay? So in other words, they have in both places, but this judge is just making it way overbroad. Here's what the judge or the dissent writes. The problem for the Tren de Aragua people is that habeas claims must be brought in the district where they are confined. They're housed in Texas, got to sue in Texas. Now, for the named plaintiffs, at least the JGG and the 5, that is the Southern District of Texas. And because they sued in D.C., the government is likely to succeed in its challenge to the district court's orders, okay? The judge is saying, you're in the wrong location. You shouldn't have sued here. Not that what Trump did is right or wrong, but they should have sued in Texas. The government has shown that the district court's orders threaten irreparable harm. We read this yesterday, to delegate negotiations on foreign powers, and that harm, plus the asserted public interest in removing dangerous aliens, outweighs their desire to sue in D.C. And they concede, even they concede the other side. They could have sued in Texas. And longstanding principles requires them to sue in Texas. Now, the government has met its burden, so we should grant a stay pending appeal. So Judge Boasberg shouldn't have heard this case, shouldn't have issued his injunction, shouldn't have done anything that he did. Especially issue the demand for evidence and when the plane takeoff and show me your ticket stubs and what were they served in first class. Did you give them a pillow on there? Did you give them a blanket? They say this is crazy. Walker, we must have jurisdiction before we consider an appeal. Now, temporary restraining orders ordinarily aren't appealable. But the district court's extraordinary orders here are. Boasberg saying, operating under intense time pressure, the district court judge, Judge Boasberg, granted a temporary restraining order preventing the removal of the named plaintiffs. Then the judge quickly certified a class of, quote, all non-citizens in U.S. custody who were subject to the proclamation. He certified, and the proclamation was for Tren de Aragua. Okay, the Judge Boasberg certified a class action lawsuit for the Tren de Aragua gang. That is a fair statement. Certified a class of everybody subject to the proclamation. The proclamation was for TDA. So gang banger class action Boasberg. Okay, and then granted a TRO that stopped the government from deporting the class. You see like commercials for that on TV. Are you a gangbanger from TDA? Are you being harassed by the Trump administration? Would you like to do whatever you want in America? Call the ACLU. We're going to be here for you. We're the gangbanger lawyers representing gangbangers all across America. And the government from removing them. Now, together, these orders amounted to an injunction that halted the president's efforts to remove these people. The district court's orders also are appealable. Says these are injunctions, okay? Although the district court styled each of them as a TRO, that label is not decisive. And these people love to change labels, like women or men or women, so on. He's like, it's not an injunction because my lived experience is it's a TRO. It's a restraining order, says this judge. No, it's not, Judge. We can see its injunction hanging out in between your pages. We can see it. It's right there. No, it's not. It's a TRO. It's an injunction. And it's a big one. What matters is what it did. And far from merely preserving the status quo pending further proceedings, the district court's orders affirmatively interfered with an ongoing national security operation, saying, this is a dissenting judge, says, in Adams versus Vance, we held that when a district court's TRO threatens intrusion on the executive discretion, it is immediately reviewable. And this should apply to every single TRO that exists that has ever been issued thus far. Okay? When it intrudes into executive discretion, especially in foreign policy, it's immediately reviewable. It's not a TRO, even if you say it is. That's the case here. Saying the district court told the executive branch to immediately stop executing a plan to repatriate or remove Venezuelan nationals. And there was an agreement reached with El Salvador, and there were representatives of the Maduro regime. Now, not only that, says the judge, the district court, Judge Boasberg, commanded an unprecedented action from the bench. In fact, the judge, writes this dissent judge, Court of Appeals, the district judge ordered aircraft to be turned around mid-flight in the middle of this sensitive, ongoing national security operation. You bring those terrorists home, and you do it now. And yeah, here's the transcript. The judge said, any plane containing the class members that is going to take off or is in the air needs to be turned around to the United States. Those people need to be returned to the United States. This is something you need to make sure is complied with immediately, says this judge. What a nut. Even when this court, Kavanaugh in a different case said, even when this court might disagree with a district court decision, that disagreement is with respect and appreciation for the work of the district court on these matters, saying, so like you were dead wrong to do that. I respect you, but you were dead wrong to do that, I think. Now, when an order, writes the dissent, when an order directs action so potent with consequences so irretrievable, we provide an immediate appeal to protect the rights of the parties. Boasberg's orders here threaten to irreversibly alter the delicate diplomatic balance. In sworn declarations, everyone says this. Senior bureau official for the Western Hemisphere affairs tells us, based on his extensive experience since 1971, that El Salvador and others, they might change their minds. They may not want to accept these gang members anymore. So there's going to be a real problem if this relationship goes sour. And the judge writes, and as we've cautioned before, courts must be aware and beware ignoring the delicacies of diplomatic negotiations. Now, it's no answer to say that the district court's TRO lasts only 14 days, maybe for 28. That's more than enough time to wreck everything. So don't just say, well, it's only 2 weeks. It's going to be another 2 weeks. No. So this should warrant an immediate review, says the judge. Now, there remains one procedural wrinkle to iron out, says Judge Walker, before we turn to the merits of this case. A stay applicant, which is what Trump is right now, must ordinarily move first in the district court. But here, they didn't do that. So can we not hear their case because they didn't do that? No, he says. That doesn't stop us. The federal rules of appellate procedure expressly provide that an applicant may bypass that step if it shows that moving first in the district court would be impracticable. Here, the government cited this. Extremely exigent circumstances. We can't go to them first. It filed emergency motions in our court mere hours after the TRO, saying they were on high alert on this. Every hour that remains in effect, this is impeding the executive branch. And so because this appeal is properly before us, even under the rules, I'm going to now turn to the merits of this case. So Judge Walker, dissenting, continues. Says Trump is likely going to succeed on this appeal for a technical reason, but it is an important reason. The gangbangers and their claims sound in habeas, and habeas petitions must be brought where they're held. So they're complaining about a certain thing. Habeas is the type of claim, right? You have civil claims, criminal claims, you've got family court petitions, and all sorts of different ways in which things are brought. You have a claim that you're being wrongfully detained. That's a habeas claim. And it happens where you're being held. And you're being held in Texas. And by the way, Judge Boasberg was operating like Hunter Biden on coke, says the district court issued its first TRO at 9:40 a.m. The government filed its 15-page emergency stay motion at 3:05, 6 hours later. Then the district court's second TRO came at 7:25. Then the government filed its other emergency motion, plus a 2-page other one at 1:04, less than 5 hours later, okay? They are just going wild. Now, even if the government's approach were irregular, they have forfeited the argument by failing to object to it, so they should be able to appeal this now, and they are. So Judge Walker says, but the plaintiff's complaint raises various claims for relief, right? They're upset. They're going to deport our gangbangers, say the ACLU gangbanger lawyers. But what's their cause of action? Asks the judge. What is it? On what basis do they invoke the federal court's power? Many of their claims rely on the APA, the Administrative Procedure Act. The APA provides a cause of action to anyone suffering a legal wrong because of agency action. Okay. Now, the plaintiffs, these gangbangers, they allege that the president's proclamation is, quote, contrary to the law. What? Under the APA. Because it stretches the meaning of the Alien Enemies Act and it violates other statutes, is what they say. They call it arbitrary and capricious. He says that's what we see all the time with these types of challenges. It's quintessential, arbitrary and capricious. That's the language. They know they have to check off, so they did. But the judge says this is wrong, though. The APA is not the right vehicle to sue here for 2 reasons. One, it provides review only when there is no other adequate remedy in court. Okay, you can only sue under the APA if you don't have an alternative claim. But they do have an alternative claim. As I'll explain below, says the judge, another avenue is here. It's called a petition for habeas. And second, the proclamation here is not an agency action at all under the law. It's a presidential proclamation, and the president is not an agency. So the APA does not authorize a review of that proclamation. Again, this can apply to all of the cases. Not all of them. Not all of them are brought under APA, but a bunch of them are. So the APA does not authorize a review of the proclamation. Where the final agency action complained of is that of the president, it says specifically, the APA does not provide a basis for a judicial review. So why are you suing at all? Now, how are the plaintiffs then supposed to bring their claims? They say, we're being illegally detained. We're not Tren de Aragua. We're innocent farmers or whatever. If not the APA. The answer appears in the very title of their own complaint. Oh, they know what to do. It's called a petition for writ of habeas corpus. In that complaint, plaintiffs respectfully pray for this court to grant a writ of habeas corpus to plaintiffs that stops them from being removed, right? And referencing 36, which is their complaint. He says they know what to do. They put it in their filing. They're asking for the relief that you would grant from a habeas petition. So that's the right complaint. Just go out there. It's a Texas and file there. Now, regardless of whether that would have been a paradigmatic habeas claim, of whether that would have been, when habeas was first developed, it is now, the plaintiffs face imminent removal by proclamation of the executive. So they resort to court to challenge the legal and factual grounds, and if they win the argument, they can't be removed. And at its historical core, the writ of habeas is for that specifically. It's a means of reviewing the legality of executive detention. Indeed, its most central historical purpose was to relieve detention by executive authorities without judicial trial. Like, that's what this exists for, literally. This great and efficacious writ did so by requiring the custodian to produce the body of the prisoner and the judge or the court and give an excuse for this person's detention. Why do you have them here? Now, as Blackstone put it, the great writ for habeas remedies all manner of illegal confinement. You don't get to sue and say, Trump's proclamation is illegal. We're certifying a class action of trend gangbangers and then have him issue an injunction that covers the entire nation. That's ridiculous. If you're illegally detained, go file habeas. Why should our law afford a class of gangbangers legal privileges? They have habeas. Go use that. Consider In re Bonner. There, the Supreme Court granted habeas to a petitioner who was subject to imprisonment on a valid jury verdict. His only complaint was that he was unlawfully deprived of his liberty because he was in the wrong penitentiary. He should have bbeen somewhere else. That he could and should have been confined elsewhere was no impediment to seeking a writ of habeas. So if they say, well, they shouldn't be in Texas, they should be in DC, or they should be here, or they should be here, they can sue and make that claim. Another use of habeas is the challenge transfer from one location to another. Now, to be sure, that did not grant habeas relief because the detainees failed on the merits of their claim. This person was in Iraq, had broken Iraqi law. They got the guy, moved him around. He said, let me out. They said no. Myriad other cases show that challenges to extradition and deportation are also brought in habeas. Here was another case. And so regardless of immigration statutes, habeas has long been used to challenge removal. It's noteworthy that the few Alien Enemies Act cases on the books also invariably arose through habeas. The last time that they invoked alien enemies, Ludke versus Watkins, Ahrens versus Clark, those were all habeas cases about alien enemies and Germans and more. So what we're seeing is this court doesn't have the jurisdiction. Boasberg is not the proper location for this. At their suggestion, the gangbangers voluntarily dismissed their habeas claims, right? The judge is like, get rid of those, because if you keep those in here, then we're going to have to talk about it, and then you're going to have to realize that habeas should have been brought in Texas, so just drop those. That's because the case law is clear. The habeas claims must be brought where the petitioner is confined, and the plaintiffs are not confined to the District of Columbia. But merely dismissing the claims, even erasing the words habeas corpus from the complaint, does not rescue their complaint. And you could write, you can submit an amended complaint. The judge is like, well, get rid of that. That's because of two important rules: the habeas channeling rule and the District of Confinement rule. We got two rules here. The habeas channeling rules requires core habeas claims to be brought in habeas. That means they must bring their complaints in of conformance with strict procedural requirements. That means we don't want any gamesmanship. There are rules you have to follow. The second rule is that habeas claims must be brought in the specific district where they're illegally confined. It's derived from the terms of the statute. You got to go where they're being held. Though the extradition context is not perfectly analogous, the plaintiffs in that case were a little bit different here, but mostly the same. There, as here, their main focus was not explicitly in their present custody. There, as here, they tried to avoid the habeas channeling rule, but we have rejected that. You can't manipulate this and try to pervert habeas jurisdiction. So the judge wraps up. He says, listen, to sum it up, the plaintiff's claim are in habeas. When they want to file a complaint, it's a habeas complaint. They can't pervert it, wrap it up as some other constitutional claim. Because they're challenging the legal and the factual basis for their removal, it's habeas. That claim must be brought in Texas. The named plaintiffs here are all confined in Texas, which is in the federal Southern District of Texas. Therefore, they must file there. Now, the government has shown by Trump and the administration that there are going to be irreparable harms. State Department officials have said foreign policy is intensive and delicate, and stopping Trump from doing this may mean that Tren de Aragua members don't go back. Even if they don't change their minds, it could harm the leverage that the State Department has. And plaintiffs' counsel at oral argument could not identify an order of that kind where it's appropriate to govern national security operations overseas. Have you seen where that's appropriate? No. The plaintiffs might respond that there could be some other harm, but whether they can certify a class action, that's for Texas to decide, not for you, Judge. We'll see if Texas does it. Now, as for any irreparable harm to the plaintiffs, they conceded at oral arguments. They can. They say, well, yeah, we could have gone to Texas. So if we just make them go to Texas, there's no harm to them. And the public interest favors the public. The government, the people elected the government. The government took action on sensitive matters, and you can't stop that. If they want to fight it, file it in habeas in Texas. So Judge Walker says, wrapping up his dissent, saying deportees are already petitioning for habeas corpus in Texas. At least one petitioner has already secured a hearing there. And that's exactly what they should have done and still can do. and should have from the very beginning. The district court here in Washington is 1,475 miles away from their detention in Texas. This is not the right court to hear their claims. They're forum shopping, my words. The government likely faces irreparable harm to national security. Meanwhile, all these ACLU gangbanger lawyers need to do is just go file in the right court and you'll be fine. The government has met its burden to make a strong showing that it's going to win and that they're going to be harmed. And issuing a stay is not going to substantially injure these gangbangers. The public interest lies with a stay. I would grant the motion for a stay. And so therefore, I respectfully dissent. Now, the Trump administration, of course, will be appealing this rapidly. And in fact, let's see if they've filed or done anything with this in the recent minutes. But no, they have not. So we're going to keep our eye on that one, of course. Judge Boasberg, meanwhile, has been busted. You saw that Just the News shared this. Said that apparently Judge Boasberg, the same guy who loves illegal gangbanger lawyers and gangbangers, attended a privately funded legal conference in Idaho that featured sponsors and speakers who've expressed clear anti-Trump sentiments. Oh. Particularly on immigration. Boasberg was one of 9 Democrat-appointed judges and 3 Trump-nominated jurists, like a bunch of Trumpers, to attend the conference in Sun Valley, the ritzy Sun Valley, where 2 of the 4 sessions were titled Role of Judges in a Democracy and The State of Democracy. Called a privately funded seminar disclosure report, the document discloses that Boasberg was in attendance, but offers no details of whether Boasberg was paid for his attendance or travel or what the remuneration was. The ethical rules governing this requires that a private entity who issues an invitation must report some of this. You can view the disclosure, but Just the News was alerted to the conference by another retired Democrat-appointed judge. Wow. Who was concerned the July conference and the focus on the judge's role in democracy was too close to a political party's theme for comfort. Wow. It's possible that his payment was merely reimbursement for expenses, but Boasberg did not comment on this. The conference was part of the Rodell Institute Judicial Fellowship, and each of the judges in attendance, including Boasberg, was a first-year fellow. Funded by some of the same foundations who sponsor anti-Trump programs. Yeah, the Henry Luce Foundation, and the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, and the Hewlett, right? All these anti-Trump organizations, openly hostile associations. Massive criticism on LinkedIn from Kroger and others. And of course, the judge is going over there having spritzers with the rest of them at a judicial conference. We also know who met at a judicial conference. You know who met there. Fannie and Nathan. Yikes. 5 state-level judges were also there. After messages were sent to 2 of its leaders. Just the News. This is just what we do. We just hold conferences. Judges come here. Not a big deal. All right. So we know what they're doing. They're hacks. They're Democrat hacks, okay? The fact that they are judges, they've perverted the robe, not us. They've done it. So we know what they're up to. Now, we also saw Ted Cruz is out saying, there's stuff we can do about this. We're going to go and keep the pressure on this lawfare being orchestrated by judges.
The abuse of nationwide injunctions as a tool of lawfare, and ultimately what's behind it is radicals who were put on the bench, many of them by Barack Obama and Joe Biden. They don't want President Trump to follow through on the promises he made to the American voters. They disagree with those promises, and they're abusing their power trying to stop them. I think Congress has a responsibility to rein in that judicial abuse
and Senator
of power.
Cruz,
will they do anything on the judges? We'll see, of course. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we keep our eye on this one. The Boasberg case, very likely to be appealed to the Supreme Court. We'll wait for those filings and cover those right back here. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. Now we got one final update on the day, my friends. And then we're going to hear from you and see what you say about all of this and more. And of course, here we are back again in Washington, D.C. A Trump-hating judge refuses to recuse herself. Big giant surprise, I know. This is, of course, coming out of the District of Columbia. It is involving the case of, in my opinion, the corrupted law firm Perkins Coie suing the Department of Justice. Trump came out, issued an executive order, and said, get out of our government. We don't want you here because you employed hacks like Michael Sussman and Mark Elias to try to rig an election and operated slews of lawfare against Trump specifically, and said, you're done. We don't have to do business with you, so you're cut off. So Perkins, bunch of babies, sued and said, well, how dare you remove us? We want to be friends. Like, you were just stabbing him in the back like 35 times every time he turned around. What's wrong with you? So they're suing to try to bring back their connection with the government, to try to reforce these relationships to open back up. Now, this case got assigned to another corrupt judge, in my opinion, Howell, who we've seen and talked a lot about here. This is who she is and what she looks like. Was the chief judge from 16 to 23. As the chief judge, she supervised a bunch of anti-Trump stuff. Mueller, 2016, attempts to overturn the election in 2020, and has given speeches against Trump in multiple clips that we've played here. So we know who she is. Now, Trump submitted an demand that she recuse herself based on her statements, based on her speeches, and her all-around partisan hackery. And she has responded today, and she writes the following. From Judge Beryl Howell. Though this adage is commonplace and the tactic overused, it is called to mind by defendant's pending motion to disqualify this court. Gosh, when you can't attack the message, attack the messenger. Oh, great opening phrase there, Judge. The adage is commonplace. It's very basic, Judge. You're acting basic right now. So they say Trump filed this motion less than 2 weeks after the court issued a TRO, stopping Trump from enforcing the order against Perkins Coie. 3 of the 5 sections she halted. Targeting, saying you can't target law firms with punitive measures because the president dislikes them. Now, when the Department of Justice engages in this rhetorical strategy, writes Beryl, of ad hominem attack on the judge, I guess, the stakes become much larger than only the reputation of the targeted federal judge. Okay, so now she's a victim. This strategy is designed to impugn the integrity of the federal judicial system. Oh, no. You've done that to yourself, Judge Howell. And blame any loss on the decision maker rather than the fallacies in the substantive legal arguments presented. This is wild. So this judge, like this full paragraph, is basically attacking the DOJ and their strategy rather than addressing the merits of the argument, right? By the way, like a judge, a normal judge who's not a hysterical person would say, oh, okay, I've been accused of being partisan. This motion comes before me. I've been accused of the following. Here's what the accusation is. Here's the accusation. Here's the explanation of the accusation. Here's my interpretation of the accusation. Here's the rules. Here's my conclusion. Therefore, I'm not going to leave. And thank you. I'm not recusing myself. So ordered, right? Like, it could be very simple. You might have this all the time in your place of work. Somebody comes in with an emotional complaint. You don't get emotional about it. You just say, what's your complaint? Oh, okay. Well, here's what really happened. We didn't do that to your car. You did that to your car when you backed out of here and ran into that pole. Like, oh, I did. All right. So then you just talk them through it. You don't have to get all lunatic over it. It's when you can't attack the message, attack the messenger. What? Are you the messenger, Judge? You're supposed to be a judge. Then she's attacking the strategy of filing a motion for recusal. Like, it's bizarre. Like, just respond to the argument. You're a judge. Just respond to the argument. You don't need to get emotional about it. The opportunity presented by Trump's motion to disqualify me is welcomed. Oh, here it is. To set the record straight. Oh, gosh. So it's going to be one of those conversations. I just want to talk with you. Why? I just have some things I want to say. All right. Because the facts matter. We're going to have a hard time getting through this. To begin, this court agrees wholeheartedly with Trump that fair proceedings from any suggestion of impartiality are necessary. That's true. So she agrees with us. She should recuse herself. No judicial ruling exists in a vacuum, but rests on case or controversies that are presented here. And everybody is entitled to an impartial hearing and to that fundamental promise, but does not entitle any party to demand adherence to their own version of the facts and their preferred legal outcome. She's nuts, man. Howell's nuts. Fact-finding, after all, is the basic responsibility of the district courts. Yeah, but we want a nonpartisan judge. That's the point, to do the fact-finding, not a hack who hates Trump. She says, this reminder about the role of federal courts seems necessary. She says, it is emphatically the province and the duty of the judicial department to say what the law is. Yeah, nobody's arguing that, lady. We want an impartial person to do that. That's the point. So she hasn't even gotten to anything substantive yet. This reminder about the role of the federal court seems necessary given the open line in their pending motion. Trump said that they need to curtail the ongoing improper encroachments of Trump's executive power playing out around the country. So this line, which sounds like a talking point from a member of Congress, which is rich coming from a judge who sounds like a Democrat member of Congress, rather than a legal brief from the DOJ, that's rich, Judge. You sound like Chuck Schumer. Has no citation, kind of look like him too, no citation to any legal authority for the simple reason that the notion expressed reflects a grave misapprehension of our constitutional order. Pathetic. Judge, you're in Article 3, all right? Not Article 2. Adjudicating whether the executive branch exercise of power is legal or not is actually the job of the federal courts and not of the president or the DOJ, though vigorous and rigorous defense of executive... Okay, she shouldn't have jurisdiction over this case either. This is Perkins Coie suing because a contract got canceled. It's a contract claim. She shouldn't be hearing this at all. Perkins should go file in the Court of Federal Claims. So again, this judge is going to do the same dang thing that the Democrat lawyers do, which is wrap their broken contracts and broken hearts up in constitutional complaints. And then make believe that it's a constitutional lawsuit. They're upset their contracts got canceled. This blanket denigration of the merits of these lawsuits reflects palpable frustration, says this judge, with the courts to pause or temper the Trump administration. But it's a testament to the fact, oh my gosh, she's going to bloviate herself into the sky, that this country has an independent judiciary that adheres to an impartial adjudication process without being swayed by the president. So we're on page 3. She hasn't even gotten to the complaint against her yet. While obviously not able to speak on the merits of all cases around the country, Trump is posturing. When facts or applicable law appear here, she's talking about other cases. In another case, the government said there were binding facts here. The D.C. Workit is warned that consideration of a motion for disqualification is never taken lightly and can't be supported by innuendo and stuff. But here, okay, finally, we get here, page 4. They only rely on speculation and innuendo. Let's see if she addresses it. Here's the legal standard. A judge must disqualify when their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Lots of case law there, we know. And she says, now defendants here, Trump, base their disqualification motion on Beryl Howell's systematic disdain for Trump. Now they say, although, she says, this is rife with innuendo, none of these complaints meet the standard for disqualification. Saying their claim that this court's dismissal of pending charges against the J6ers showed hostility, right? One of the things that Beryl Howell did was like rant about the J6ers. But she says it wasn't grandstanding. Saying the crux of the critique appears to be the fact that in explaining the decision to dismiss, the court did not adopt the presidential reasons for dismissing the case. Whatever reasons that the president gives, they're unreviewable by the courts, but she's basically going to say, I'm allowed to say what I want in dismissing the claims. Decisions from the D.C. court finding that recusal was not warranted also means comments. Comments are protected. I shouldn't be required to recuse because I said some bad things about Trump. Saying defendants are also relying on 2 other decisions, but these examples are not appropriate. They also say that this court questioned Twitter's counsel and then allowed access to Trump's DMs. We covered that problem here. But this is just mischaracterizing this line of questioning. Okay, they're taking me out of context. The second grand jury decision was about subpoenas and testimony. And it remained under seal, could have remained under seal, but Trump asked for it to be publicized. And so there are no issues here with the judge also broke attorney-client privilege, as you recall. And she's saying, I found that legitimately, and everything I did was legitimate. In some, mere disagreements with prior legal rulings is not a valid basis for disqualification. All right. So defendants also point to a single line in a speech. Remember, she gave a speech, and in the speech, she came out and was talking about Trump's big lies. They say in further emphasis, a single line of a speech saying that she regularly sees the impact of big lies is not enough. Contrary to their assertions, this speech never mentioned Trump. I wasn't talking about him. This speech never took any political positions at all. Not talking about 2020. The extent that they suggest otherwise, oh, I wasn't talking about Trump. The fact that you think I was talking about Trump means that you were talking about Trump. She's so pathetic. The Supreme Court has long recognized that judges are not only permitted to talk about their views, they can have candid reflections. And so here, just because I worked on the Mueller case and the Russian collusion hoax and all of these other things, and Fusion GPS and the Mueller investigation and the PP tape and more, the court is not biased, and these are not grounds for disqualification. And so for the reasons addressed here, we are not going to disqualify myself. All of this is based on speculation, innuendo, and basic legal disagreements, not a basis for disqualifying Beryl Howell. All right, so it's so ordered. Trump loses the motion to disqualify Beryl. Beryl gets a motion and a complaint about herself, reviews the complaint, finds she did nothing wrong. Judge Beryl Howell, one of the worst out of D.C., going to stay on the case. So will Congress do anything? Here's what one representative, Andy Biggs, had to say about it.
Exceeded it. Maybe Congress should make a resolution that you've violated the good behavior clause of Article 3, Section 1. The other aspect is getting to the nub of it is we would expect them to regulate themselves and say, we cannot do this. It gives the appearance of impropriety. And in some cases, it actually reinforces the biases that they have. Yeah. And so you're not seeing people walk away. We've seen that in the J6 cases in particular. You saw a lot of that, John. That's right. And so it's really actually kind of a horrific thing. And it adds to the mistrust that Americans have in their government and, in this instance, in their judicial system, the system of justice, oddly enough. They don't trust the system of justice.
It's a shame, and it's because of judges like Beryl Howell and the rest of them in Washington, D.C. So we're going to keep our eye on this one. We'll see if Trump appeals this. I mean, ultimately, I think a lot of these things will get rectified on appeal, but we'll be here continuing to cover it. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends. Well, we had a great stream today. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about. The American Oversight lawsuit is connected to Norm Eisen and Melanie Sloan. And we followed the bouncing ball through the chain of its creation and found the articles that explained it accordingly. And yeah, this was the Norm Eisen article. Politico got this one for us all the way back in 2016. Yeah. So American Oversight has reemerged. We know it was created by Melanie Sloan and Norm Eisen. Then they kicked the whole thing off to this woman called Heather Sawyer, LGBTQ person of the universe, according to Chicago Hall of Fame. And we saw reaction from this. We had Hegseth, we had Johnson, different people from the Trump administration, including Pete himself, explaining that the SignalGate leak is just a scam, essentially. Much ado about nothing. And we'll see where the lawsuit goes from there. We also then turned our attention over to what's happening in the Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia. We saw that Trump, of course, has appealed asking for a stay of Judge Boasberg's decision halting the deportations, and the Court of Appeals ruled against Trump. We read through a great opinion from Judge Walker. Judge Walker might be setting up a nice framework for the Court of Appeals, or rather the Supreme Court, to hear and to decide when this goes up and knocks on their door. And then lastly, we read through Judge Beryl Howell's self-judgment, judging herself on why she's not going to be recusing herself from the case, why she's amazing, not partisan at all, and she probably thinks she's a good person too. So good stuff that we attended to, but now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all of this and more. It's a beautiful Wednesday. I hope your week is unfolding oh so beautifully, and you're accomplishing all the things you set your mind to. Donut, thank you for clipping for us today. Greatly appreciate it. Hey, look at these handsome pups in the house. It's Wednesday. Yes, fellas. Very handsome pups there. And very dexterous. Is that a word? Voice of the People says, sorry, everyone. The JFK Files hearing is Tuesday. Not today. Someone set up the live on YouTube wrong. Oh, man. So there's going to be a hearing on the JFK stuff next Tuesday. So next week. Thank you, Voice. And it's going to be a great stream. Hey, we got some new membos joining us. What's up, JC Steak? What's up, Josie Zalecki in the house? Great to see you both. Membos, we had a great members only stream this morning. We talked about some good stuff this morning. And we're going to talk about some more good stuff tomorrow morning. Membos, we're 1 hour early tomorrow, 11 Eastern tomorrow for the Membo stream. We'll see you tomorrow, JC and Josie. What's up? Brian Hinkle says, keep up the good job. Brian, thanks for being here for 3 months. We're 1/3 of the way to a full baby. We appreciate you, Brian. Hope your brisket's well. Philip Coggins says, nonpartisan. What? Where was this group when bodies were falling from airplanes? Nowhere. They were not overseeing that one. We're going to go oversight something else for a while. 1,000s of Americans left behind, plus $80 billion in equipment left to the Taliban. Yeah, whatever happened to all those people? Didn't Sean Hannity have a tracker? Is he still counting down? This is Sean Hannity. Welcome to Sean Hannity Tonight. It's day 15,000 of Americans stranded in Afghanistan. Welcome back. Is he still doing that? I don't know. Yeah, but it's true. Like, do we leave Americans, or what's the deal? What's the update on that? I don't know, Philip. King Ginger, what's up? The only way the enemies would have gotten this information would be if Jeffrey had given it to them. That would be treason. So what's the controversy? Yeah, well, I mean, the active controversy is whether somebody added Jeffrey to the chat. I think the crux of it is who added him to the chat. A lot of people are criticizing him for just lingering in the chat. Shouldn't you kind of notify the other side when something bad happens? So I think all valid stuff. Hey, Schlista's here. Says, this is what I use when I see people believing the next media hoax online. Do you believe these media lies? Yeah, here's one. Trump colluded with Russia to defeat Hillary. Fake hoax, not true. COVID came from a wet market in Wuhan. Yeah, remember that. Fake hoax, not true. Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. In every one of these things, by the way, they were screaming at us with the same confidence and command that they are right now. Joe Biden was mentally fit to be president. Remember that? Every night on the cables with a straight face, like they were legitimate people with real brains functioning. He's fit, he's spry, he's as best he's ever been. Didn't Scarborough come out? This is the Joe Biden's at the top of his game. Joe Scarborough. The jab, right? All the jab lies. A cloth mask. Remember all of that? Put the mask on. Don't put the mask on. It helps you. No, it doesn't. Remember that? We got strikes for all that stuff. If you don't believe these lies any longer, why and when did you stop believing them? And it's with the same bravado as before. They're just actors who just repeat the lines. Fred Waters. What's going on, Fred? Thank you for becoming a member. We appreciate that. Hey, Clark Blunt is here. What's up, Clark Blount in the house? What's up, Clark? What's up, Gamer Fan? Got gifted a membo. Thanks, Clark, for bringing in 5 new friends. Make Believe is here. Mars R 1970. We got Clowns and Hollyweird. Darlene Ryan in the house. Thank you, Clark, for bringing in 5 new membo friends. MJ Powell. What's going on? 11 months plus some, because I know it didn't count those first. Says happy Wednesday to you, Robert, and to all the watchers online today. 15 months in the house. Man, that's coming up on 2 full babies, MJ. And sometimes like your card expires, you have to put a new card in or something, so it resets. Looking forward to many, many more. MJ, we're grateful for you. Looking forward to two full babies from us together here. Object Class Keeter says, can we just disband the DC District Court and add it to Maryland or Virginia? We have no need of a small court district when others cover big areas. Yeah, I think that's right. I think a lot of DC could be disbanded. It's too centralized. And things get disgusting when there's too many cooks in the kitchen, as it were. Hey, Tony, hey, Munkets, you rock. And we're waiting for this to load here on the telegrams. Come on, work with us. All right, we're going to let that warm up. Tony, hey, Munkets. Gifted one other membo. What's up? Zaxis is in the house. Thank you, Zaxis. Welcome aboard, Zaxis. And Art Pollard says, you know, it's nice to see an and Rand presidency in my lifetime. Yeah, that's an interesting comment. And in what, like an objectivist presidency? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like objectivism? Like, yeah, like almost, you know, little regard. Objectivism is a complicated one to explain on the fly. But something that's more American oriented, and or maybe you're talking about like John Galt, right? So you could be talking about that too. Like, who is John Galt? So a lot of ways we could take that, Art. But regardless, yeah, much better than a Karl Marx presidency, isn't it? What's up? Fred Pedamonte says, hey, imagine if Boasberg's daughter was Republican or was, you know, yeah, no, we don't even want to imagine that. Don't even want to put it out there. But it's a good question, right? If these judges like had the Lake and Riley family experience, I don't want that at all. I'm not encouraging that at all. I don't wish it. God forbid that happens to them. But I wonder if that would change their immigration policy, if they had to suffer what that family went through. Maybe not. Knox, what's up? Because they're pretty twisted folks. Knox, happy Wednesday, all. It is possible that El Salvador may refuse future prisoners as they will be receiving their own deportees now that our president has revoked their TPS via executive order. One of my guys left last week. Knox is a defense attorney in Texas. So she's seeing some of the impacts of this. What's going on, Sharpie Guy? Says, there are so many sleuths here and on your channel. Bad Kitty comes to mind. And all said, who else has your keen eye of interest? Yeah, Bad Kitty's great. Pepe's grandma. I mean, we follow a lot of people here. We try to also credit them, right? That's why when we share stuff on the screen, even if I don't shout them out, right? Like Andy Biggs posted his own stuff, but like Ted Cruz posted his own things. Like I do like to share where it came from. So I don't know who was here today. Like Trump War Room, they're a nice like aggregating account. I mean, the people who are doing great reporting on the legal stuff obviously are going to be Margot Cleveland, Julie Kelly, have been doing, you know, great reportings on these from our side. Like every day, following the cases, following the updates. They're on X, but there's many others. I mean, you know, way too many to name. Those are, I would say, 2 people who stand out. What's up, Sharpie Guy? Because I want to know how these judges always get the cases against Trump. Well, those are friendlies. Like on the opposite side, on the blue team, you're following Mark Elias, you're following Norm Eisen, George Conway, Roberta Kaplan, Molly Jongfest, all those people. What's going on? Hey, it's the Munkets. What's up? Bringing in 5 membos. Karen Kempton, Just Rhonda. What's up? Shouting out. Amanda Goldberg, Jeffrey NG, Pete Vanderland. What's up, Pete? We got Kristen Harris, gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets in the house. Hey, we got more coming in from Clark. Clark, 5 more membos. Clark, 15 membos. We got Cool Roy, Francisco Vidal, Edgar White, BG, Randy Mills, Lucky 13, Live Evil. We got Pam Wild, Fly Girl, Dead Spot, Obi. Too many hobbies, Dad. Was this a kid setting up this YouTube channel? He's like, no, set up a YouTube channel. I want to start a hobby. Okay, fine, Dad. I'll set up a hobby channel for you. All right, good to see you. Welcome. Hey, what's up? Skate Betty. We got Steve Trammell. We got Renee Besseler. Alan Jackson's Bucket of Nickels just joined up. And Beverly Alford gifted membos, courtesy of our friend Clark Blount. 15 membos. Thank you, Clark. What's up? Ataraxia says Joe Biden had an Iranian spy. Didn't he? Probably. Or Hunter, maybe. I don't know what Hunter was doing, but maybe. If they paid him cracker hookers, he would have given him anything. Knox. And when I think back to how difficult it was to get the fired for not taking the jab Raytheon workers, I'm absolutely disgusted by this sua sponte classification. I think, yeah, maybe the class action certification, Knox, is what you're saying. Yeah, it's weird. Like the government mandates citizens do something or you lose your job and you sue to stop that from happening. Too bad. Government can do whatever it wants. You try to deport terrorists out of your country. Like, in other words, if the government wants to deport you out of your job or out of the military because you don't do what they say, no problem. They can fire you instantly. But if the government wants to deport criminal terrorists, then judges say that's illegal. They all need process and hearing. So terrorists get more process than you. Isn't that amazing? Incredible. Thank you, Knox. Chubby says, okay, so if the plaintiffs have to file a habeas where they're being detained, isn't that now in El Salvador? Well, before they get removed. Yeah, I mean, they've been removed, obviously, but like as soon as they would have to get a lawyer and file before they're on an airplane. So yeah, it's a short window. I definitely don't think any U.S. court has jurisdiction now. Now, also, wouldn't this case, if Trump lost, eventually open it up for lower courts to then have precedent to try blocking international prisoner exchanges? The foreign affairs deal with El Salvador being integral in this case, it just seems uncomfortably close to that kind of situation to me. Yeah, I mean, yes, I think that's right. Like what we're seeing right now is the courts taking over certain powers, taking them away from Trump and trying to usurp them into the executive, into the judicial branch. So we'll see. Yeah, but that's what they're doing. And the question, I guess, is 4 years from now, can we replace a lot of these DC judges with Republican judges and this injunction? Like, are injunctions just fair game now? I might be a judge next time Democrats want to nominate me, Trump, before you get out of here. All injunction. Do you know how much crap I will injunction in a Democrat administration? Don't record this in case I ever come up for confirmation hearings, but I will injunction the ever-living crap out of everything that the Democrat. Nope, injunction. Sorry, can't do it. Everything. Unless they're eliminating a government position, then I won't injunct anything. But otherwise, man, you can call me Robert Injunction Govea. You know? Philip B., what's up? I am from Texas. Cruz is TED Talk. No action. That's pretty funny. He's just a TED Talk. Okay, we like Ted here because he has a podcast, and we're nice to our fellow podcasters out there. So we appreciate that for Ted. He's trying hard out there. If you want to subscribe, Philip, he's a senator, you know. Hey, Sheila Poo. What's up, Sheila Poo? Thanks for bringing in 10 new amazing membos. We got Mastodon Knots is here. Gary H. Hunch, the Dirty Roofer. Jim Justice. We got Joshua. That happens a lot. Came in. Elaine is here. Brian Rookard. William H. Rosalie D. Gifted membos courtesy of Sheila Poo. A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, for bringing in 10 new membo friends. What's up, G-Men? Says she's almost as crazy as my ex-wife. Which one? Beryl Howell? Or Jasmine Crockett? Which one? Those are both pretty bad. Hey, L. Gigachad says, when a judge recuses themselves, does it affect their permanent record in any way? No, yeah, like if they get too many recusals, is there a problem or something? Like, do they have to go to the principal's office? Uh-oh. No, they just don't want to. They don't want to admit, like she would never, ever admit that she's a partisan hack. So if you say, hey, judge, you're a partisan hack, like she has to defend herself. So, but we all know the truth. G-Men says, definitely Xanax and wine when she wrote this. Oh yeah, she was just indulging in that. And her, it's probably like, okay, You know, I don't know if she has cats or what, but okay, don't bother me, Figaro. Going downstairs to work on my brief. Chubby, there's one blatantly obvious and unquestionable similarly between all of these activist judges. The unmitigated and nauseous narcissism and self-aggrandizement they always espouse when confronted with their inappropriateness to oversee a case. It is. It's like, we are amazing. And they always say how independent they are. Like, I'm an independent person, and I'm nonpartisan, and I'm a judge. And I swear, if you see these people like at events walking around and stuff, they act like it too. It's obnoxious. They act like it. Now, I've not hung around with like federal judges like that, like this, like, you know, like at these cocktail whatever events that they're at. But I'll tell you this, even state level judges or like state Supreme Court judges, it's like, prosecutors too. Prosecutors are the worst. They're like, I'm a prosecutor. I'm cleaning up the streets. Like, shut up. You're prosecuting urinating in public. Give me a break. Give me a break. Stop patting yourself on the back. You're a dork. Doanne. Hey, Rob, for the record, the A and the E are silent in Don. Bone. Doan. Rhymes with bone. Doan. I'm going to remember that one. Doan in the house. Doan Beryl. Anyways, these hacks are simply adding... Thank you for telling me. I like to get your names right. Other people names, like Congress people names and other things like that, I couldn't give a crap about most of the time. Especially when we can have a lot of fun with them. But I do intentionally try to remember your names. Thank you, Doan, for telling me that. Doan in the house. Beryl. Anyway, these hacks are simply adding incentives to Congress to defund the D.C. circuit. Yeah, and honestly, we listened to Mike Johnson this morning, Doan, and I think you may have heard him on that stream. But he was explaining, like, he sounded like he had a little pep in his step on this judicial issue. What's up? Object Class Keeter says, can we get Roberts to retire and Paxton and Bailey in? No, I don't think John Roberts on the Supreme Court. He's not going anywhere, unfortunately. It would be nice. He could retire. Amy could retire. Trump could get 2 new people who are actually conservatives in there. Rob MAGA Patriot. I personally think every judge that is on the bench, when they are requested to recuse themselves, another judge should come in and determine the recusal. Yeah. Yeah, and so then there would be like this onslaught of recusal requests, right? And then you'd have this, judges don't want to recuse other judges, so then other judges would be mad at each other. Why'd you recuse me? And then other judges just wouldn't recuse each other. Like, I get it, but it would still be the same thing. Hey, G-Men says, will the gangbanger lawyers and the lawyers who joined the gangbangers appeal to SCOTUS or appeal to the next en banc panel next? Oh, good question. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see what they want to do. Do they want to bring in the full panel to see if they'll reverse themselves? I think generally we see them do that. They go up back to the Court of Appeals for like a broader opinion because it was just 3. It's actually a much broader court. Good question. Or maybe they just want to bypass them and go right to SCOTUS. I don't know if SCOTUS will have a preference. Good question, G-Man. I don't know. We'll see. This old guy. Article 3 judges should never be allowed to review their own petitions for recusal. Yeah, maybe the Court of Appeals does it, and maybe there's some like disincentive there. So if you file a motion to recuse and you lose, you pay costs or something so that there's not an overall, an over like onslaught of motions. Because there are some judges that are bad. And, we had battles with judges when I was practicing a lot, like battles. Certain judges just hated our firm. One in particular I could think about because she was the worst and because we didn't take her crap and we filed motions all over the place and blew up her court. Anyways, yeah, so it just depends. Anyways, please smash the like button, my friends. Thank you, Lenny. And thank you for subscribing if you haven't subscribed already. And if you have anybody in your life that you haven't told about the show, thank you for telling them about it and inviting them to come join us. Doan says the 5 DC circuit hacks on the Trump cases are foreign born with no prior experience behind the bench. Wow, what a hack fest of lowered expectations. Yeah, we read that through this morning, Doan. Yeah, metaphorically blew up her court. Yeah. Tony Hay Munkett says, all the true patriots find this show eventually. And the truth seekers. I love you, Robert. I love you, Tony Hay. Thank you. I've made so many friends here. Pff, me too. Me too, Tony Hay. Yeah, I do. I love you back, Tony. Thank you for saying that. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being supportive of our work. I'm glad you're making some friends. We're building a community here. And It's deeper than you even know. Run Mead says, hey, SCOTUS should recognize that the rabid animals should rule accordingly and stop perverting the law. Thank you for that, Run Mead. Villaplot says, hey, no reason, Rob, for the dono. Just love Rob and the Watcher fam. Here's a couple of pennies. Thank you, Villaplot. We appreciate it. Now, every bit counts, and so don't want to minimize it. Thank you for sending it in. Thanks for being a membo. Thanks for supporting us. We got Mommy Mima. Says Glenn Beck's team still has a significant group in place to try to get people back from Afghanistan. That's awesome. Yeah, man. Glenn's doing some good work. That's awesome. Glad he's there and on it. Rob Magda Patriot says, why do we have federal district courts and places that are not even a state district of Columbia? Guam, places like that. They don't need a federal judge. Well, yeah, I mean, I think federal courts serve a purpose, but when they don't serve a purpose anymore, you don't just have to keep them. Like, you can change them like anything else. If legislation is bad, you change the legislation. If a circuit is bad, change the circuit. You don't have to be bound by it. Pinochet, what's up? Says, working in American and an individual's objective and objective best interest. From Pinochet's Helicopter Tours, the best helicopter ride you've ever been on. 127 Gold says, Glenn Beck gave an update a couple of weeks ago about Afghanistan. His charity called Mercury One is still evacuating stranded people. About 100 remain. That's crazy. Yeah, good. Shout out to Glenn Beck. Shout out to his charity called Mercury One. Thank you, 127 Gold, for that. That's cool. Man, it'd be nice to get, to have enough impact in the world that you've got enough extra capital to start a charity to go save lives in Afghanistan. All right, that's goals there. Thank you for that, 127 Gold. Those are goals. Hey, what's up, Sharp Dress Man? In the house, Sharpening Man in Texas. Bringing in 5 new membo friends. Bringing in Politically Homeless. Not anymore. You're now a membo. You found a new home. SC Dog Fan, welcome. What's up, Faux Fire? We got Lex Luthor. Chaos Sonic in the house. And thank you for bringing him in. Sharpening Man in Texas in the house. Londo says, I call those my between YouTubers. Between 11 a.m. and 2:30. Those are the between our 2 streams, Londo. That's okay. Yeah, that's good. As long as you come back. All right. Okay, we love you. Londo, hey, thank you. Tony Hey Munkett says 46. Trump 46. Well, I think we skipped over that one, unfortunately. Yeah. Hey, what's up? Doan is here. Doan says DC Circuit is like a progressive Praetorian Guard. Yeah, that's right. I think that's right. They're like the Death Star of the legal apparatus. They control a bunch of other, legal powers that be that really have control over much of the country. Knox says, I did that class action back during the shutdown. I had to teach myself how to get a class certified. There were so many steps forgotten by this judge. Never a jurist before a judge. Interesting, Knox. Yeah, I never did any of that stuff. Class action stuff, just criminal defense only. And I was never so happy the day I could go back to criminal defense. Civil is way too much writing and arguing about arguing. My hat is off to them. Couldn't agree more, Knox. Yeah, those are like I kind of joke like they're the smart lawyers. Like they like to read a lot and write a lot and like think a lot and all that. Like, okay. You go do some legal research and write a contract or something. Like those are the smart lawyers. We're just in court, just like defense lawyers are very much in person. It's very much like a sport almost. It actually can be very tiring. Like I would go to sometimes 5 courts a day, just running around all over the place, talking to prosecutors, keeping your energy up, interfacing with clients and doing good legal work. But a lot of it's like in the face, right? It's very active. That's why criminal defense is fun. But I did, when I was in law school, like a little internship for like bankruptcy and tax and stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna be like a really smart, like financial lawyer. I'm like, this stuff sucks. Spreadsheets and folders and yeah, no, not for me. Knox, I couldn't agree more. Hey, it's interesting. Don't get me wrong. Bankruptcy and tax, very interesting, very powerful area of law, just not well suited for my skill stack. What's up, Annihilated? But coming back, working out today. I did legs today. Kind of. It was pretty light leg day, but I did it. I reported it. Annihilated, but coming back. Good to see you. Hey, Clark. Whoa. Clark Blount in the house. Look at this. Bringing in 50 new membos. Let's welcome them in. 2 steps, 1 seps. Like biceps, maybe. Deanne McIntyre. What's up? Andrea Smilin. Miss Amy. We got Targeted Patton. Wilty. Serrano Guardias. We got It's Always Crappy in Pittsburgh. Funny. Tammy Wagoneer. We got Amanda S. Stephen H. What's up, Brandon C? Gigi is here. Grim Wolf. Alyssa Marie. We got the Apex here. Jack Danielson. A. Johnson. Captain Banana. We got Frank is here. Derek Reynolds. T. Cash. Tisha Sutton. Crosby's Gaming. Halmir. We got Official Rogue. Michelle Brown. Marmar. Garrett Westbury. Abraham Garcia. Travis Finch. Butch Strong. Robbie D. Fatty McFatass. Welcome. Cheryl Wheeling, Robert Kinter, Shelly Stevens, Riley Leifson, and more. Ivan Blue-Tarski. What's up, Monique Walker? We got Suze Esk and Jody Vanover, Elizabeth Vaughn, Noble Victory, DC Designs, Don B, Scott Grizzard, and Let's Go Brandon in the house. Gifted a ton of membos. Thank you, Clark, for bringing in 50 new friends. Amazing. Nate also got gifted a membo. Welcome, new friends. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only morning stream. And if you just joined up, we streamed this morning about a bunch of other good stuff. I think, yeah, we had some good segments in there. Hey, King Ginger, 21 months as a membo, says third baby is in the oven and cooking away. On the way to number 3. Thank you, King Ginger, for being here. Can't wait to meet the number 3. Suregal. What's up, Suregal? Suregal is over on Rumble. Says, I'm pretty unhappy with the Vanderstock decision from SCOTUS. Is that the one that just came down today on the guns? The 7-2 decision? I just saw the headline in passing, but I think it was a 7-2 decision on ghost guns, right? I think the holding was, which was so dumb. The holding was that if you order a ghost gun kit, it needs to be registered and in compliance with the federal statutes on guns and all this. So, it's basically a gun. So you have to, do all the things you do for guns. It's like, wait a minute, was that ever in the Constitution, or was that even applicable during the founding eras? Like guns had to be licensed and registered with serial numbers and all this crap. It's a joke. Was that case? Yeah. Angie Warren. Hey, I love it here. Angie, I'm glad you do. I do too. Says, thank you, Rob Govea, and the chat. Yeah, we've got the best community. Very welcoming, Angie. Thanks for being a part of it and making it happen. It's a beautiful thing, Angie. Thanks for joining. What's up, G-Men? Says, shouldn't there be a path to be a federal judge? Maybe start as a state district judge, then state superior court judge, then move on to be a federal district court judge. Having no experience is crazy. Yeah, it is crazy. And that article, we read an article today. There'll be a segment on that about the DC judges. And I didn't realize how little experience many of them actually had. They're just foreign born and just shoved in there thanks to Biden. Yeah, I mean, you'd go back to the Constitution, G-Men, and there's not much requirement there. So we were contemplating that. If here's the thought that I had after the stream this morning. If the president has to be natural born because the president controls the entire country, and judges are now issuing nationwide injunctions, which are affecting the entire country, why should they not be also natural born? Now, I think when the Constitution was written, there wasn't a requirement that they were natural born because they weren't exercising nationwide power across the entire country with their injunctions at the time. So you might say, well, you want the judges to be reflective of the district in which the district in which they reside and where they're from. And so you create a close connection between the two. But now they're acting like presidents. So if they have a similar power, maybe they should be natural born. Anyways, what's up, Knox? Guam needs a federal judge. They have a whole Pacific corridor to include several bases and the stationary fleet off the coast of Saipan. They're more useful than the DC circuit. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things there with Guam and Puerto Rico and all of that. Good to see you, Knox. Good thoughts. Londo, it was a crappy SCOTUS decision. Unbelievable. Basically, that the kit that was not a gun, but someday kit might be a gun, you can make it in a gun in less than 20 minutes. And so those kits have to be kind of tracked or registered or something. I got to look into the case. I haven't seen it, much of it, other than what I've shared here. But yeah, it's like they're regulating guns that aren't guns yet. What? What does that mean? All right, so my friends, let's say hello to our friends on X. We're going to just say hello quickly and then go over to locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Membos, if you're going to be joining us tomorrow morning, 1 hour earlier, 11 Eastern time, and we'll see you there. What's up? N-Rate says, this is the Jack Smith 2.0. Good to see you. We got Miss Coffee says, thank you for the awesome job and your humor. Sometimes you're hilarious, even when I don't mean to be. Rob Republic says, oh, that's totes due process. We have a lot, a veritable, verifiable F-ton of corrupt judges in our country. True. Kim, why the Dems are going after this? I mean, why are they suing them on Signal? It's already installed on the phones. And B. Torn is here. Says, Democrats don't like to hear the sound of their own voices. If they had to, they'd hate themselves as much as they do Trump. Yeah, like if Pocahontas, like somebody should play a video back to her. Like Elizabeth. I know this is hard, but this is how you sound when you speak in Congress. Ready? Play. She's like, that's me? Yeah, that's you. We've been trying to tell you for a decade. Fred says, breaking, John Bolton remarks about the Signal war plans on CNN. What does he want to bomb Iran? Is that what his thing said? Yeah. Hey, B. Torn, thanks for the great comments. My friends, if you want to follow us over on X, that's the place to do it. Right there. Rob Govea, ESQ. We'll see you over there. And be sure to follow other watchers out there in the wild. And we'll, of course, see you there. Now, we're going to leave it there, my friends. Before we wrap it up on the day, we want to thank our amazing mods and our meme smiths who mod the fort down for us and keep things oh so beautifully and nice and orderly around here. Our friends and mods, K-Bean, Donut, Mind Me, Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly. Grateful for their amazing help. We also had some other comments that came in as we rounded out. We got Tony Hey Monk. It says, I do things to see if you can read between the lines. I should have added that I still want them to prove that one way or the other that Trump was 46. Like maybe you just kind of delete Joe Biden. Joe Biden gets an asterisk since his brain wasn't functional the whole time. He was like, Joe Biden was like 45.2. So Trump was really 46 and 47 or something. Michelle says, my husband, when he heard about the Signal app mess, says, tell him we are coming. Give them time to prepare. A warhead on the forehead of a hopeful person who feels prepared is a morale killer. Interesting. Interesting. So in other words, maybe the leak was like intentional to warn them that we're going to come take you out. And then we're going to take you out anyways. And then everybody else who saw that just happen is going to be well aware of what the capabilities look like. Like they're going to it's like, hey, I'm going to hit you in the face right now. And you're like, no, you're not. Like, I'm here. I'm going to defend myself. Like, I'm ready. Like, go. And then they hit you in the face. You're like, damn. That was impressive. Something like that, Michelle. Yeah, I can understand it. Shout out to your husband. Thanks for both of you for checking out the show today. We are now going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And we'd love to have you join us. We do members only streams over there in the mornings. Tomorrow morning, we'll be doing a Membo stream, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Locals and on YouTube. We'd love to have you join us. But we also, yeah, that's right. The show time tomorrow is going to be 1 hour later too. Members 1 hour earlier, show 1 hour later. 7 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. That's the plan. Your boy's got an event. And we're going to do that. And we're also going to do Stephen Gardner's show tomorrow, I think. I don't know if it's going to be live or not, but we're doing that tomorrow. So that's going to be fun too. So my friends, we're going to be jamming. We're coming back tomorrow to get into it again. And in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.